Welcome to GNV On The Move, a half-hour program showcasing the City of Gainesville's initiatives, programs, events, and people. I'm your host, Jennifer Smart. This is an exciting time for Gainesville as we strive to create a community that is equitable, sustainable, resilient, and a great place to live and experience. We are a city on the move. In this episode, we'll take a look at the city's prescribed fire program, which provides an effective tool for reducing hazards and controlling plant disease in the lands we manage. We'll update you on city initiatives addressing housing, pedestrian safety, gun violence, and services to assist neighbors experiencing homelessness. We'll also spotlight one of approximately 1,300 city employees in a segment we call Meet Your Community Builders. But first, here is my conversation with at-large Gainesville City Commissioner and Mayor Pro Tem, Cynthia Chestnut. We discussed developing a transformative commercial corridor and sports complex for East Gainesville, as well as preparations for this year's A Very GNV holiday parade. Dr. Cynthia Moore Chestnut was first elected to the Gainesville City Commission in 1987. She went on to serve as an Alachua County Commissioner and also in the Florida State House of Representatives. In January 2022, Dr. Chestnut was again elected to Gainesville City government. She is currently a Commissioner at Large and Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem Chestnut, welcome to GNV On The Move.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
I wanted to first ask you a little bit about your background. When I first came on board with the city, I did some research online, and I was on the Florida archives looking for photos of you for a story I was working on, and of course there were many of you as an elected, but what I also found was a photo of you as a little girl, maybe 10 or 12 years old, having won a spelling contest. And it really made me curious about your personal background. What was going on in your life as a child that had you already on this path to be doing big things?
Well, I suppose my mother's guidance. I grew up in Tallahassee, and she was very, very instrumental in making sure that I was involved in everything. And she had a fierce respect for government and voting. So that was something that we always heard about. And then in high school, I was involved in student government. And at Florida A&M, it was the same. In fact, I was the editor of the FAMUan, that's the school newspaper.
And so there is something in you that not only wants to learn, but also really wants to be involved and to lead.
And to help, yes, there is. I guess that's sort of my passion. Public service, giving back, and making sure that I bring people along as I'm moving, always trying to build a bench behind me so that there's someone to follow along.
And so when you came to Gainesville, you immediately, this was in the 70s, you arrived in Gainesville? Yes. You immediately became involved in the community, and one of the things that people may remember is the TV talk show that you had right here at WUFT.
That's true. The show was Color Us Black. My husband had been the co-host, and I was working on a project with Dr. Art Jacobs from the College of Journalism in my first job at, it was then Sunland Training Center, which is today Takachali. I was a speech pathologist out there. And he said he also was the faculty person involved with Color Us Black. He said Charles Chestnut needs a host, a new co-host, because the person with him had to depart. So that's how we got started. So I actually met and worked with him on Color Us Black. It was a weekly public information program providing community events, interviewing various people, and just keeping the Black community abreast. It was a wonderful, wonderful community contribution from Channel 5, WFT.
And so what were some of the things that you began to notice about the Gainesville community way back then in the beginning?
Well, one thing that really tweaked my interest was the disparity in services, intentional or unintentional, but the disparity on the east side of town. And so that's really sort of where I started my political career, and looking at how I could do something to help and make a difference for people on the east side of town, because that's it's predominantly the African American side of town, but making sure that we had services, more importantly, economic development.
And so you were working on this program, you're part of the community, you see this need, and then that's when you decide, I can help and I'm going to run for elected office.
Yes, I decided that I could do that. My husband was already in politics, and so we just became a political family dedicated to public service. He had said to me, we're never going to be wealthy, but we will give back to the community, and that's how we will share our wealth. It will be through public service and doing good for others.
That's very profound. And so you now have this, what's become a storied career. You have been elected at the city level, the county level, and the state level. You were the first Black woman to serve as mayor for the city of Gainesville. What are some of the things that have come to mind for you when you look back on these years of service?
Well, I've been blessed and honored that the citizens of Gainesville, or our neighbors in Gainesville, would allow me to serve. And I guess I would say initially, with the City of Gainesville, we saw the first neighborhood, new neighborhood, Cedar Ridge, for East Gainesville. So I look back on that one today, and now we have Cedar Ridge 2, and many, many more housing developments, affordable housing developments that have come on board.
What differences did you see when you returned to the City Commission?
Things were really flourishing. There was a very strong commitment to affordable housing, and housing projects were being spread around. A real commitment to investing in the community.
And you and the city manager arrived roughly at the same time, and you've seen all this through. So when I arrived, you had already begun championing what we're calling the transformative commercial corridor and sports complex for East Gainesville. And it was something that I learned about immediately when I arrived at the city. So tell us a little bit about what this vision is for the area that's now MLK and Citizens Field.
This area is the gateway to East Gainesville. If we're able to revitalize Citizens Field, that was built, I believe, in the 50s, or late 40s, and it really hasn't been renovated since, not a major renovation. If we are able to revitalize that area, I think it will be, and the MLK area, it will be a beacon for economic development. But I'm looking at seeing both sides of the street develop. If we start at the northern end with the airport, that was the beginning, the airport expansion, the airport revitalization, and keep moving south, we then come to an economic activity at the Walmart, come down to, going past Citizens Field, to the investment that the university made at the East Side Health Center, that is a primary care center for the community, and then go on, keep going south. Then we reach what I call the jewel of the whole area, which will be the urgent care center, EHEDI as we call it at the city. The whole area is just going to be transformational. Now we have the architectural and engineering study underway, which is going to give us precisely what we can put in that area. We'll go back to the community again to get their input because we are partners. We need their hands at each step of the way to make sure that we're building a facility that is going to be used and appreciated not just by East Gainesville, but by the whole Gainesville community.
This is a really great way to step into the next part of what we're talking about, which is the holiday parade. A very GNV holiday parade, another big, wonderful community event that you also championed, and people really got involved.
They got so excited. I think the last time we had a community parade was in the 90s, and my son and I participated in the parade in another city in the county a couple of years ago, and I said, well, what happened in Gainesville? Why don't we have a holiday parade? And so I came back, went to my colleagues on the commission, and they said, well, you have our blessing if you go out and raise the money, because the city didn't have money to put in for that. It had not been planned. And we set about the business of trying to raise the money for this parade, and we raised over $96,000. And so the very GNV parade was off and running. I think it helped, of course, that our parade marshal was Steve Spurrier. Everyone reacted to his name and wanted to be involved. But the community was just so enthused and so appreciative. I think we had about 5,000 spectators.
Correct, we did. That's our unofficial count.
I expect to double that this year on December 7th for this parade. I've checked the weather. It's going to be beautiful. So
tell us about what is happening this year, because as you said, December 7th,
yes,
we have the parade.
And we want to expand it, perhaps more into a festival, but having food trucks down at the parade, information booths, and other different activities. Last year, what was very unique is that we combined the parade with other city activities.
It was a really fun day, and the parade added to these other events, so I think we had more people at the dance party for kids at Bo Diddley. We had more people at the tree lighting at the Thomas Center.
I think about 500 more at the tree lighting, and the parade was only a mile long. I don't think we're going to expand it much more, but we are now taking applicants again. So people need to hurry and get their application and register. And of course, we are looking for sponsors.
Looking for sponsors. We have 20 units already registered to be in the parade this year. We got a much earlier start this year.
Oh, yeah.
But we do want to encourage people to go online, go to the city website and register to be in the parade. And of course, as you say, it's going to have things that we haven't even yet quite planned for this year. Now that you've sort of reached the pinnacle of this life of public service, what do you think, looking back? That picture of that little girl who won the spelling contest, if you could talk to that little girl and say, here are all the things that you're going to achieve.
I think I would say to her, stay involved. Listen, and learn to collaborate, because collaboration is the pinnacle of success.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
After the break, we'll share a conversation with Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs Director Roxy Gonzalez. We discussed the city's impressive park system with 90 parks and facilities, as well as the broad range of programs the department offers to all members of our community. But first, here is an update on steps the City of Gainesville is taking to effectively address, on a local level, some of the issues that are facing communities across the country.
Earlier this year, the Public Works Department finished resurfacing and restriping a portion of North Main Street between 39th and 53rd Avenues to include bike lanes. The project was funded by the portion of the 1-cent infrastructure surtax dedicated to road repair. The City of Gainesville has contracted with the Willie Mae Stokes Community Center to create a framework of prevention and intervention strategies that support positive structure and interrupt violence. The network will extend into schools, after-school programs, churches, and groups connected to advocacy for reform of justice-involved individuals. If you or someone you know is looking to purchase your first home in Gainesville, the city may be able to help. Our down payment assistance program offers up to $30,000 to income-qualified buyers. Contact the Department of Housing and Community Development for more information. The city is committed to eliminating chronic homelessness in our community. We financially support GRACE, the area's homeless resource center, in its mission to connect neighbors experiencing homelessness with shelter, services, and permanent housing. The Gainesville City Commission recently allocated $1.3 million to GRACE for homeless services.
Are you ready for some music? Get ready to rock, roll, and groove every Friday night all summer at the Bo Diddley Plaza in historic downtown Gainesville. Catch the best local music under the stars and make sure to bring your lawn chairs, your blankets, and the kids to the Free Fridays concert series. The fun starts at 7 o'clock every Friday night, and again, it is absolutely free. For a full schedule of every concert, log on to the web at BoDiddleyPlaza.com.
The City of Gainesville conducts prescribed burning for ecological restoration. We also conduct burn for wildlife management purposes, and we do it for wildland fire hazardous fuel reduction. Every year we have a habitat management goal planning process. We sit down at the table and decide which areas are in need of fire the most, and then from there we determine the fire return interval, which is the technical term for how often does fire need to be put into this area. Each burn takes place under a series of predictable, measurable conditions, and that's really the difference between prescribed fire and wildfire. We're applying fire to the landscape in a way that's predictable, that are under specific weather conditions and other different factors that we take into account. A good burn day for us is about 3 to 5 days of planning that goes into the process. Sometimes we're burning around homes and businesses and busy roads. There are a number of ways we notify the community. We do it via email. We also do it via our goal planning process, which takes place at our Nature Centers Commission meeting each year. Anyone who could potentially see smoke during the operation, we've done our best to go through that and meet with them, describing to them, what we're doing, why we're doing, and trying to bridge that gap. Every burn has 4 different operational phases that we go through. There's planning and evaluation, and then the actual ignition and holding, which is the live fire activities that are going on during the day. And then there's mop-up, which is extinguishing the flames and all the smoldering, anything that could potentially be a problem. And then declaring the fire out, which may take place up to a week or 2 afterwards, depending on when we no longer believe combustion to be occurring. This is a longer-term process that the city has embarked on. We're working towards restoration of these areas in the future based on ecological considerations, and we're also doing this to reduce hazardous fuels in the landscape. We have a great team. We have great support from our leadership staff, and I'm really optimistic about the future.
Roxy Gonzalez is the City of Gainesville Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs Director. She comes with a long history of running successful programs, particularly focused on athletics, events, and youth activities. Roxy, welcome to GNV On The Move.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I wanted to start by asking a little bit about the prescribed burn and sort of what is that about and how big a piece is that for nature operations?
So it's a huge piece. So the prescribed burns actually mitigate the chances of having a wildfire, right? So being able to do that helps our natural lands currently kind of grow in the healthy elements of things.
So nature is a huge part of our park system, and I feel like it's helpful to look at it sort of as a system holistically, because you have your recreational areas, you have your facilities, you have your wetlands, you have woods, you have so much happening in your department.
Yeah, so our department consists of various different divisions, and we like to call them various different teams, because when you hear the word division, you kind of hear the separation, right? So we are one big department in Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. And in those teams, we have recreation operations that handles a lot of our athletic programs or aquatic programs, also handles all our facility rentals and our active parks. Then you have park operations that now is combined with natural resources that handles all of our active park maintenance and then other special events and special projects that occur. So you have those sections, and then our other big bulk of a section that the city tends to see a lot of is our cultural affairs. The cultural affairs team does all the city events, right? Majority of them, from Hogtown, from Downtown Arts Festival, all the performances you see at BoDiddley Plaza. So they also bring their performances out to Depot Park.
It's interesting to think about all the people behind the scenes, right? Because you come to Gainesville and you feel like, cool place, great activities, nice outdoors. There is this behind the scenes group of people who make all of this happen, create these programs, put it out there, staff them. and doing it very, very well. So this is where we get to brag a little bit on parks, because we do know that you have achieved all 154 reaccreditation standards,
Yes.
100% score for our park system. Tell us a little bit about your accreditation process.
So the accreditation process is a national accreditation through the National Recreation and Parks Association. It is there's over 500 accredited cities throughout the whole nation, and an average of about 200 tend to get reaccredited. We were able to get reaccredited in 2023, this past year, with completing all 154 standards. The fact that we were able to accomplish at 100% of that is amazing. Very few organizations are able to do that.
And you're doing innovative things and coming up with interesting programming, and especially in the area of youth. I think we put a lot of focus into the young people of our community. Tell me a little bit about youth activities.
So we have a variety of youth activities. We start from preschool in doing Start Smarts. Start Smarts programs is it's geared to athletic programming, but it's an introductory to all sports. Then we have our aftercare programs. Aftercare programs always come with some form of education or mentor or guidance, depending on the age, is what the guidance and education is based on. We do a gardening program that we partner with other organizations to come out and teach the aftercare participants how to garden. We do arts and crafts, of course, but we also do reading programs. So initially is we bring in other organizations to come in and do these programs, within every session that we have. And then we have, during the summers, like now, we're towards the end of our summer camp programs. And our summer camp programs are constantly active. We try to push those to be a lot more fun. We understand these kids are in school all day, every day. So our summer tends to be a lot more activity-based. And through those activities, we also go on field trips. We do one end of the summer really big field trip to give that nice big wow factor, to give them one memory. Ultimately, through all of our youth programs, we really like to say we want to create a memorable life experience, right? Because we all know when we're kids, we all think back and we're like, I remember that one day in that camp. I remember that one counselor that we had. And so ideally, that's what we want to instill in what we do, is give these memorable life experiences, not just with youth, with adults too, right? So we always want to come back to say, oh, I remember that day that I went over there and played this card game, or whatever it was. And so, or did that yoga class.
I love that approach.
Yeah.
And so you have Teen Midnight Basketball, and I know everyone has a great time with that.
Right.
Taking the pop-up games on the road, and they're going to different parks in different neighborhoods.
Exactly, yeah. So we expand that from youth to teens to adults. So we have it all.
As we're transitioning into a new school year, how do your offerings change? What do you do differently in the fall?
So instead of going through all-day programs, we look at our programming after school on for youth. So it would probably be pretty much based on 5 o'clock on. So we're working with agencies to do Pop Warner. Well, we run Pop Warner football. We run cheerleading programs. We run some youth basketball programs, and that's in the athletic realm. And then we go into our event season too, right? So come November, we have our Downtown Festival and Arts. That's a big event that happens every year for a very long time in the city, and we're excited to do that because we love to uplift the artists within the community.
This was where I was going to go next, because we had Commissioner Chestnut here, and she was talking about the holiday parade, holiday season. Well, be honest, before we know it, you have a lot that happens sort of around the parade that even predates the parade. You've been doing that for years. So tell us a little bit about what happens in the holiday season for you.
So come the holiday season, starting November, right? So actually, end of October, you have the Fest, right? Fest is an organization that comes out and runs the Fest, but my staff is highly involved in handling the logistics for that. Then we have the Downtown Festival and Arts. So we have that, and then come December, the first weekend of December, we have the holiday lighting at the Thomas Center A building.
And then Sparks in the Park.
And then, that's true, Sparks in the Park. I tend to forget that one because it's such a big event. But yes, and then on the 31st, we have Sparks in the Park and Downtown Countdown.
Yeah, never ends.
No.
No rest.
No. Then following that, we will come back into the Hogtown Medieval Festival come by February.
Thank you very much, Roxy.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this glimpse of the many exciting projects going on in Gainesville. We leave you now with Meet Your Community Builders. Darby Gwynn is one of those community builders and serves as the recreation leader at Sweetwater Wetlands Park. Join us again next month as we take another look at GNV On The Move.
Hi, my name is Darby Gwen, and I am the recreation leader at Sweetwater Wetlands Park. I was originally hired as the program coordinator for the Gainesville Greenway Challenge and Great Invader Raider Rally. Eventually, a full-time park ranger position opened up at Sweetwater Wetlands Park, and I held that position for 5 years before I was promoted to recreation leader of Sweetwater Wetlands Park in October of 2022. So my job consists of patrolling, maintenance, surveying. We might do bird surveys, vegetation surveys, invasive plant removal, tours, both formal and informal, education. I also do all of the scheduling of the rangers and training, things like that. Sweetwater Wetlands Park has always been a fairly accessible park, but we recognized that some of our visitors were still having challenges, and so in an effort to make it even more accessible, we added a pervious concrete surface around a portion of Cell 1 and a 10-person mobility tram that has the ability to put a wheelchair on it so we can take folks who have mobility challenges out and around the park. It's definitely brought more people out to the park, folks who couldn't handle the walk all the way out into Cell 3 before. They're seeing areas of the park that they've never been able to enjoy before. So groups of families and friends can get together and enjoy the park in its full splendor and glamour.
We do get 260 documented species of bird out here. Wow. That is over double what's considered average for an inland county in Florida. The average is 125.
Outside of working at the park, I really enjoy horseback riding. I've been horseback riding for 23 years. I started as a show jumper and eventually moved into dressage. This park is really special. We bring in people from all walks of life. It's an internationally known park. It does phenomenally well with all of its water quality goals, and it's ultimately a place where history, innovation, and wildlife meet.